Hi, Phyllis here from southernfrugal.com. Well, we're getting ready to fix this table in the kitchen. It is made out of Eastern Red Cedar, which is my favorite wood, but the wood is just very hard to work with. It cracks and it dents pretty easy, but it smells really good. But anyway, I love Eastern Red Cedar, so I made this table. I think it was about 10 years ago, and Mr. Bucky taught me how to use power tools. He did. He taught me when we were renovating the house. So I still don't use the skill saw, but I do use the chop saw. So this morning, in order to get the kind of filler I need where this table has cracked, I found this little piece of Eastern Red Cedar up in the cabinet when I was cleaning them out. I don't know what I saved it for, but I'm glad I did. And so anyway, I watched a video a couple of weeks ago with a guy who was refinishing an oak floor. And he was putting that little shoe molding back down. And he ended up, he said he needed some filler for the nail holes. So he took some of the sawdust up off the floor, mixed it with wood glue, and made his own little wood filler, and it matched perfectly. So that was the problem with this table. When we got the little crack in it, I filled it in with regular wood filler, and of course the color didn't really match. So then I went and got some stain that was early American stain, and it didn't match real good either. So it never really looked right. So I'm going to do what this guy did on the video and see if I can't make it match. So I took this little board out and used the chop saw and chopped a whole bunch of little pieces. Whoops. And I caught the sawdust in just a grocery bag. It's got this little, on the chop saw, it's got this little thing on the back of it where the sawdust goes flying out. And we usually keep a pillowcase on that, but I took that off and just put a grocery bag over it. And that's how much I caught. Isn't that great? I was just going to use a razor blade back and forth. I was doing like that. Can you see where I was doing that? And I was like, wait a minute. This is going to take till next week this time to get enough to do it. So then I thought about the chop saw and how much sawdust it makes when it's cutting. So anyway, I also had some cut really thin like that. Now this was a tongue and groove little board that's got the groove on one side and the tongue on the other side. I don't know what I got this for, but anyway, so I clipped off some of that to use the pieces to put in the crack. Let me show you. All right, y'all, hold on. Let me see if I can turn this down. Let's get a little closer and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let me move closer, right there. All right, see that right there? All right, so that's where the wood filler was. And so what I did is some of the wood filler was cracking out because it wasn't very nice wood filler anyway. So I put some of these little slivers, like the real thin little slivers in there to sort of fill that crack, to give my little homemade wood filler that I'm going to make something to, you know, some kind of base for it. So anyway, let's take a look at this. Let me turn this around. There's what it looks like. And see, it goes all the way down. Now it's not as wide all the way down, but then it gets wide there at the very end again. So let me back this up now. And this video will be over a course of about 3 days probably. I want to show you underneath the table. There it is. Let me just get down here on the floor and we'll look at it. See, there's the crack. Goes all the way down. Yeah. And there's how I made this table. I tried to copy our table in the dining room the way that was made. And these are 4x4s that were just raw cut Eastern Red Cedar. I ordered it from a guy in Oklahoma. And I had to sand off and round off the legs and everything. Had to round off this little lip right here too. So it's got a lot of knots in it. And you see this leg's got a crack, but that's just the way cedar does. It really, but it smells good, and I do love the way it looks. Getting up here. All right, so there's the rest of the table. So what I'm gonna do, I did that right there. Some kind of little project I was working on, and I banged up the table, so we're gonna sand all of that out. Here's the other end where it was cracked. And the wood filler that stayed in better, I went ahead and left that. So we're going to do it all the way down. All the way down. You're right there. All right, so I hope that didn't make you all dizzy. So now we're going to mix it up. Sorry about that. Turn that around. So what I'm going to do is put some of the wood filler, or the wood sawdust, which is Eastern Red Cedar, and that board, of course, didn't have any kind of finish on it at all. So I'm just going to take several spoonfuls of that. Of course, it's real light. And I'm going to mix the wood glue with it. It says on there that it bonds stronger than wood, resists heat, mold, and mildew, sandable and paintable. And it also says somewhere on here, oh yeah, waterproof and stainable. Now I'm not going to stain it, but when the cedar is, when you put polyurethane on it, which is the way I'm going to put the finish on the table, it turns it this darker color that you can see it right in here. All right, so we're going to mix this up. And I don't even know how much to use. So I've never done this before. But it looked to me like he mixed it up to where it was like a little putty. So I'm going to see if I can do it just like he did it. It's going to be getting all over my hands. Yeah, so that's what I remember. He mixed it up like it was putty. And of course, wood filler is kind of like putty anyway, the kind you buy in the store. And then after I put it on, of course, after it dries, I'm going to sand it. So let's go down here and look at this. So we'll do the hardest one first here, which is that one. All right, so again, we're going to see if this is going to work. So I'm going to take some of that and just put it in that crack. There's a little crack there, and then the one over here. And I'm going to overfill it because I'm going to sand it later. All right, so I'm going to fill this crack in all the way down, and we'll be back when I get that done. All right, that wood filler worked pretty good. What I'm going to do is go ahead and let it dry really well for several hours, and then I'm going to come back and put another little, maybe thinner coat on top of this just to make sure. So I've done it all the way down to that end. So you see that crack there? All right, so then I'll be filming again. I'm going to sand it tomorrow, and I'll put the first coat of polyurethane on it, and then I'll put another coat on it the following day. All right, we will see y'all when we get ready to start sanding. Okay, it's the next day, and I've been working on the table. I did put 2 coats or 2 different times I put the filler in, and it worked pretty good. I did use a little early American stain on it just to make sure. Here they are. One of them is red mahogany. I didn't use that one. I used this one, which is early American, and I think this is just to cover scratches and dents in your furniture maybe. But anyway, I went ahead and used that, and it worked pretty good. You can't really even see where the crack was down at this end, but at this end you can still see it. I'm sort of happy with that, but not real happy. but the rest of it looks fine. And we also changed out the feet on it, but we need to cut 1 1/4 inches off of these feet right here because the thing is a little bit too high. So I'm going to get Mr. Bucky to cut those off for me, and we'll put them back on, and then we're ready to sand the top of this with the 220 sandpaper. All right, we'll be back. All right, we have sanded it with the rough sandpaper, and I'm getting ready to sand this with the 220 sandpaper. But we took the legs off, or the feet I call them, and you see one of them looks a lot lighter because these came off the porch rail, and we just switched them out, and we had to cut them off 1 1/4 inches because I really wanted my table the same height as my kitchen counters, and now they are. All right, so we're going to sand this with the 220 sandpaper, clean it off, and we'll be ready to put the polyurethane on. We'll be right back in, I don't know, 20 minutes. All right, I have completed sanding the top of the table with the 220 sandpaper. I actually sanded it 3 times just to make sure it was nice and smooth. And what I want to do now is use some of this. Early American is the shade. It's kind of got a little bit of a red in it. Now this is the natural color of the cedar. So there are dark spots in it, see, like that. The knots are dark in there. So I'm going to make this dark too, and just put in the stain on it and make it darker. This one over here too. And then whatever's coming out on the edges, I'll wipe that off. Yeah, so I'm going to go on down and mark the rest of this and then wipe it off, and we'll be ready to put the polyurethane on because I've got some places right down there that I need to mark at the end. We'll be back. All right, we're ready to put the polyurethane on. This is the same polyurethane I used on the floor on the second coat that I did on the floor. There it is. I'm using satin because I don't want it super shiny. You have to keep some kind of something to stir it with to keep the whatever that is on the bottom stirred into it, and you're not supposed to shake it. So what I'm going to do is just literally pour some out, and I'm using this little pad to put it on. And you want to go with the grain of the wood as much as you can. See how pretty that wood looks? I love cedar. It's my favorite wood. And of course I love hard pine too. So we're going to put this first coat on, then we're going to let it dry for 3 or 4 hours, then we're going to sand it with the 220 sandpaper again, and then put another coat on, and I'm probably going to go ahead and put 3 coats on. Alright, I need to move y'all back a little bit. It's real easy to put the polyurethane on. Now you can't put polyurethane over like varnish or anything where you're not supposed to. Alright, just make sure that I've got it evened out. Okay. So I'll come back and show you what it looks like. We'll be back in just a minute. Alright, there's what the table looks like. Now I'm going to go ahead and post this video because basically it will look the same after 2 more coats of polyurethane. So what I'll be doing is after 3 or 4 hours, assuming it's dry then, I'll sand it with the 220 sandpaper just lightly and then put another coat on it, and then tomorrow morning I'll lightly sand it again and put another coat on just to give it a really good and smooth look. Now it won't be this shiny once it's dry, because this is a satin rather than a, bright, shiny polyurethane. And there it is, y'all. All right. I'm pretty happy with it. At least you can't see a big crack where you can see the floor in it. So I got that done, and I'm pretty happy with it. Plus we got the legs on it, or the feet on it, which makes it as high as my countertops, which is what I was looking for. All right, we will see y'all next time.